What's going on, Benchwarmers? Yeah, Jimmy's had a little bit of a tough week. I know he's had a tough week, man, but it's Thanksgiving, man. It's a fantastic week, man. You got a family around, everyone, man. I hope everyone's staying safe out there. What a week. Even though your quarterback went down, you can't help but be happy this week.
It is going to end up being a good week, and I got VIP parking when I showed up today. I got the closest spot at your place where we record, and it was a bad weekend, but it brought forth some new alignments. I realize now that Alex Redmond is no longer on the Cincinnati Bengals. If you follow my Twitter account, you know that I kind of called him out and said that he made the injury way worse than it was. He got cut a year ago, actually. Got cut in September. So and the funniest part was that he took the time out of his day to direct message me and start calling me a hater and all the things. He was obviously upset. I don't normally call people out like that. I was analyzing his blocking technique. But I got a Twitter beef now. He didn't even have the decency to have it out in public. He decided to private message me. But Alex Redmond, you took the bullets for Micah Jordan, but you got nothing better to do either. I don't know what you're expecting from me. I don't know why you decided that it was worth your time to try and come attack me and make me feel stupid. I know what I'm doing. That's what our job as a podcaster and like an analyst in this field. Our job is to talk about bad plays, and if you were in on that play, you had bad play. So I stand behind what I said about the play. I stand behind the fact that Micah Jordan got Joe Burrow hurt. I mean that's the part where it's tricky with athletes. You don't know where it's okay for them to come back at you, or if you're being a little bit too harsh. I feel like that was a little bit stupid. It was an interesting day, Niko.
Yeah, you just had everything rushed to your head, and it was a moment where time lapse. You were just so upset about everything that happened, and it made sense.
I mean, our platform is based off the fact that we are fans. We do know a little, like we talk and give our opinion on the game, but I'm a fan first, and I was upset as a fan that was it that happened. In the first place, he shouldn't have been in that situation. You shouldn't, as an NFL left guard, you shouldn't get beaten like that. And then you really shouldn't, as an offensive lineman, don't put anybody towards your quarterback's legs. Nothing good happens there. It's like the first thing you're taught when you're 6 years old. It was eerily reminiscent to when Carson Palmer blew his ACL, and I can still remember that vividly. That's the same feeling that I had. My heart just dropped when I heard the update. Joe Burrow has been taken off the field with an apparent leg injury, and Ryan Finley. I completely missed Joe Burrow off the bat. I didn't hear that he was the one who was taken off on the cart. Then I hear Ryan Finley, and all of a sudden it clicked in my head, and I was like, no!
Yeah, it couldn't have been worse.
God, why?
We'll talk about that more in a minute, but for all the YouTube listeners out there, because we have a YouTube show now too. I mean, we post all of our videos on there. We post Center Attention, which you heard Jimmy just now. You'll hear that next Monday. But for all the viewers out there, I'm wearing my GCU jersey. I told y'all I have a very vast jersey collection. So I'm going to be coming in with new heat every week, and this week, college basketball is back. I love me some college basketball. Yeah. My GCU Blopes play Grambling State. I don't know, Grambling or Gambling State on Wednesday. We have a new coach this year, Bryce Drew. Hopefully it goes well. I'm hopeful. We have one of the best returners back, Oscar Freyer, who didn't play last year. Alessandro Laver, who was one of the all preseason WAC players of the year. So we have a lot of good returners. I'm hopeful this year we can make a deep tournament run, but a lot of good things there. So I gotta rep my GCU boys.
I get it. I'm repping my college too. I'm repping the Mountaineers, Western. That's gonna be fun. College basketball is a lot of fun.
Great week of games too.
I missed it. I was gonna go 3 for 3. I was about to go back to back. We did a pick'em for March Madness on the radio show when I was on it for the last 3 years. We did it for 2 years. We didn't get to do it last year. Undefeated. And I don't watch college basketball throughout the season, so I was hoping to go 3-peat. I'll have to roll it over into this year. And when we do something for that, that'll be fun for me.
Yeah, that'll be something we'll do in March. We'll constantly interact, especially with bowl season, with college football, and then college basketball season. Like we said, there's so many great teams, and you never really know who's going to come out in college basketball as well. But we'll get into all that too, man. Like we said, it's Thanksgiving week, so the one thing I want to touch on is be safe in your turkey bowls. I got myself a turkey bowl with some friends too, man. It's a great time. I know that's the most competitive I can get nowadays because I don't have I have my little basketball team, but we went 2-1. But now the most competitiveness I can get is my turkey bowl every year. So it is what it is.
That's gonna be. Make sure you stretch. Because
Oh,
I started feeling it as going through football. I gotta stretch before I do anything outside of the norm of my normal physical activity. Be sure there's gonna be a lot of blown hamstrings, a lot of ice packs on shoulders, some frozen peas maybe. Don't cook all the peas.
I
Save a pack of
can
peas.
lift still like pretty heavy, but I cannot run anymore. That's for sure. My
And
legs
no,
or knees are bad.
and if the two-hand touch suddenly turns into full contact turkey bowl, you're gonna really feel that the next day. I mean, it sucked when you were playing, but this is gonna be twice as bad because no pads and you haven't been conditioned to it yet. Remember, we used to beat the crap out of each other for 2 weeks down in Florida every year, and then we'd get into the regular season. We were the only youth football team that had a 15-week regular season. It was strange.
Yeah, I don't know how we used to do that, considering how our bodies are now. But that's probably why our bodies are so.
That's probably what put us in the.
It's probably why both of us have CTE and are stuck doing podcasts now.
I know it's CTE, and then we have to articulate ourselves, and that just takes it to a whole nother realm of difficult.
Exactly. We're lucky there's two of us because we bounce each other off, and we both say stupid things that we don't that don't go through our heads completely.
It's good to have a sounding board. Always good to have a sounding board. Plus, we've been friends for a long time. We've been around each other for a long time. So
we remember practicing on Thanksgiving for state championship game and playoffs as well. So it's always a great time to have football on Thanksgiving.
Love football on Thanksgiving. I love the 3 games that the NFL gives you now. Honestly, even though the Cowboys and Lions suck, it is nice to wake up on Thanksgiving Day and know that you have a Cowboys and Lions game to watch.
Exactly.
It has been such a tough year, everything-wise. Personally, and then obviously with the pandemic and the quarantine, it hasn't been the easiest time, but there are still good things that came out. Like, we started the podcast. We both graduated, which was something that was made really difficult by the fact that we got sent home 3 weeks before everything. So, as tough as it has been, at least, we could be thankful for some good things that have been happening, and it gave us the opportunity to maybe do things that we weren't going to have the opportunity before everything happened. So.
Exactly. You gotta take what life gives you and run with it. That's for sure. But without further ado, let's get into everything because there's so much to talk about. We're gonna have a lot to talk about the NBA. Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's start with the biggest football story of the weekend, which was Indiana Ohio State. We'll start with college football. Aspect there. Indiana only lost by 7. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit of a blowout at the beginning, but Indiana's their way back.
It was an interesting game. It ended up being as good of a game as I thought it was going to be leading into it. I was live tweeting it if you were following along, so I know there was some pessimism and stuff being said. They did come back, and Tom Allen proved to me why. He's not necessarily the best schematic coach in college football, but I think he's one of the best just all-around coaches in college football because he got his team to come back. Looking at the box score, Ohio State came, and at the end of the second quarter, it looked rough. It was 28-7.
Terrible.
We talked so much shit about it being a 21-point spread. They go into halftime down 21 points. Go, oh well, maybe Vegas does know what they're doing a little bit.
But hey, they cover still. They cover. I knew they were going to cover. There was no shot.
That's what I was getting at. Tom Allen, and they started showing clips from the locker room. He is going to be. If you're an Indiana football fan, you got to hope you hold on to him. I don't think he's going anywhere. I really don't.
Yeah, I was like we talked about with our guest a few weeks back on the Masters episode, Jeremy Fear, who's an Indiana grad. Tom Allen is from Indiana, so more than likely he's going to stay there. I hope he doesn't leave. Doesn't look like he'll ever leave to another Big Ten school. I think the only place he'll probably go is back to the SEC, where he went to Mississippi, or he coached at Mississippi State, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's the only place I can see him leaving. But either way, he's set in stone. That program is in the right direction. But like we said, it was too big of a jump.
They're not there yet. We thought this was a show me how good you are game, and we did. I do think that Michael Penix is a pretty good college quarterback. He made some really incredible throws that. There's not a lot of the top quarterbacks that we talk about can make those throws. So he did play well. But outside of Michael Penix Jr. and their defense is really good, you don't know anybody. They don't have a single really weapon that you can go to. And then that's ultimately what caused the outcome. Because Justin Fields is a dynamic weapon, but he also has Master Teague in the backfield. Great receivers. Garrett Wilson had 169 yards receiving. on 7 receptions, so he absolutely went off. That was who scored the first touchdown. There's just weapons that Indiana is missing at this point. You got the culture, you got a quarterback and a playmaker. Now you got to get the pieces around them to be that college football playoff contender.
Yeah, there's a reason why Justin Fields is arguably the number 2 best quarterback. I mean, he probably is the number 2 best quarterback coming out of this year.
Yeah.
Going into the draft next year, but like Ohio State's weapons are there just because of the culture they built for so many years. Indiana is still growing there. I hope they didn't knock out of the top 10 because they had played their asses off and they were 8 last week. Hopefully they're still in that 10 range, top 10 range, but I don't know. But it's still
I'll tell you in a second.
They definitely are out of the playoff now, unfortunately, just because they're in the same division as Ohio State and they won't have a chance at the Big Ten championship. So
they dropped to 12. Northwestern moved up to 11 after beating Wisconsin. So that makes sense to me. They did drop below Northwestern out of the top 10. Another team that is now out of playoff contention. We talk about Bedlam. And I apologize because I told you to pick Oklahoma State in our beats of the week. That's one of the really bad ones that we've had so far. That was
tough one.
That was a terrible beat, and I apologize if you listened to me and put money on that. Looking at the all-time record, I think Oklahoma State's won a total of 7 times.
Yeah,
out of an 80-year rivalry. It's not necessarily a rivalry. It's
an
East rivalry, but I'll talk about it as we're recording this. It'll be tomorrow, but you'll listen to it Friday on the Air Raid Attack podcast. I'm sure we'll talk about Bedlam because he's based out of Oklahoma, and I got to get my 2 cents in on how can it be a rivalry if a team's only won 7 times. But the Big 12 completely out of playoff contention unless, like we've been saying, chaos at the top. Chaos at the top negates everything that we've said so far. Anybody can make it in at that point. If the SEC and ACC have both 2 lost champions, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I know. Like you said, there has to be chaos. There absolutely has to be chaos. But with the season dwindling down to the end now, it's very tough to see that, though. It's very, very tough to see that.
I don't think it's... I mean, you got, like we keep saying, Iron Bowl is a possibility for chaos. There's always a possibility Notre Dame doesn't take somebody seriously, but Big 12 is now out because you're going to have a 2-loss conference champion, probably Oklahoma. They seem to have found themselves a little bit. Probably going to see a rematch Oklahoma-Texas in the Big 12 championship.
It should be a good game, but it probably won't mean anything for the top 4. Though,
no, that'd probably be like a Rose Bowl or maybe a Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, one of the ones that they don't make a playoff semifinal.
But either way, it's going to be. There's, like we said, the whole top to bottom college football is very, very good this year.
Mm-hmm. Since
there's a bunch of very solid teams,
really,
but there's obviously the top heavy. It's very, very top heavy. Who knows what Clemson's going to look like coming back now? Trevor Lawrence is going to be back, and
that really sucks for them that they missed out on last week. The Florida State decided to postpone their game. One team I'm looking at now, especially since they were able to beat Georgia and earn their spot in the conference championship game, I want to see Florida. I mean, I know that they've played already, but Kyle Trask, quarterback, has inserted himself into the Heisman race, put himself pretty high in the Heisman race, I think, and could possibly be moving himself up draft boards too. But Kyle Trask out of Florida is making me really want to see the Gators go up and take on Alabama in an SEC championship game. You're going to get 2 SEC schools that way if Florida ends up beating Alabama and getting into the playoff. But Florida could possibly make it in.
I would love to see some new blood.
Yeah, it would be awesome to see somebody new in there. BYU and Cincinnati, I think, are off my list because Cincinnati is a great game against Central Florida, and that's another really good team in your conference. But you can't, if you're going to be the Group of 5 team, you can't struggle with anybody. You got to blow everybody out. And BYU refused. They tweet out in September, anybody, any place, anywhere, and then they turn down an offer to play Washington. Are you serious? You turned down an offer to a Pac-12 school?
Both them and Nebraska are frauds. Nebraska, big loss against Illinois as well, man. Like, Nebraska, thanks for bringing football back, but you have done nothing this year.
Yeah, you got the biggest save of the season, but you suck anywhere else.
You're not. CU is better than you. I just hope you know that. CU-Nebraska rivalry is still real, and the Buffs are better than you.
Shout out Mike Lynn, because he did play at Creek. We both played with him for a season. He's out playing offensive line for Nebraska, so shout out Mike Lynn. But everybody else in Nebraska, the N stands for knowledge. Remember that.
Everybody else can kick rocks. But let's go football after talking basketball, because there's a lot, and I mean a lot, to talk about basketball. So
I kind of gave you free reign for this one, because I know you've been paying attention.
Man.
Thank you for turning the Woj notifications off on the far end of the bench.
Yeah, I made your life a little bit easier. I turned the Woj notifications on for my personal page, so it wouldn't fire you
I
up.
was getting blown, like, sitting at work. Pause. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but I was getting blown up sitting at work, just Woj. And then it was also stuff, like, you don't understand half the stuff that he's tweeting out.
Oh my God.
This team traded it to that team, and then that team decided to pick. But on Thursday, if the weather is clear, like, there's so many stipulations with the NBA draft trades and all that kind of stuff that he's been tweeting out. I don't understand it. So, all this circles back to thank you for taking me off.
Of course, I got you, man. I'll get blown up with the Woj tweets constantly because I love seeing all of it. But let's start with the draft because the top 3 went as expected. Anthony Edwards to Minnesota, James Wiseman to Golden State, which makes them very, very tough to beat. Yeah. But they just like Klay Thompson, so that's going to be a huge thing to talk about going forward. LaMelo Ball going to Charlotte. We may see the LeVar versus Michael Jordan matchup we've been waiting for. So
shout out to everybody who voted in our poll too. We put that out last minute, and we ended up getting a pretty good turnout in that vote. Who the Benchwarmers thought was going to go number 1. Anthony Edwards did end up winning, but there was a lot of love shown to LaMelo Ball. Let's just stick with the top 3 because that was a big topic of conversation. What did you think of LaMelo? What do you think of him in Charlotte? Do you think that elevates a pretty poor franchise overall, or do you think he's going to just have his work cut out?
LaMelo needed to go to a place where he runs a team, and in Charlotte he had the opportunity. Minnesota would not have been a good fit. D'Lo and Karl-Anthony Towns are the leaders of that team. I don't think he would have gelled with that. Golden State obviously would have been nice to have another shooter, or not, I'm not going to call him another shooter. What am I thinking? Another playmaker on the court, but it just made no sense. And then Charlotte, now he can run his own team. He's in the perfect spot where now they just signed Gordon Hayward as well, so he has another option on the wing. They're still not a playoff team, but they have promise now. They have Devontae Graham, who is a former Rock Chalk Jayhawk, who had arguably the most improved season last year, but didn't win the award. So they have a lot of promise, but they're not there yet. The top 3 went as expected. All 3 players there fit each team's mold.
Fit the team that they got drafted.
It was a perfect fit for all 3 teams. I think all these 3 players are going to thrive in each position. Outside of the top 3, the other big notable names, Patrick Williams going 4, which shocked many people. We thought the Bulls would probably maybe have gone Obi Toppin, who went 8 to the Knicks, which I think is a great pick. I know the Knicks are in need of a good point guard, but Obi Toppin brings that highlight factor the Knicks need back. So that's a big story. Him at 8. Tyrese Halliburton, who I thought was going to be one of the biggest steals in the draft, falls all the way to 12 to Sacramento. All those boys on the Reserves podcast and High Low, we know you guys are Sacramento fans. That must be tough, but you guys got a steal over there. So that's going to be big.
Yeah, sorry, Kelsey, but you've had a tough week with the Kings, but they did something pretty good on.
Cole Anthony going to the Magic, the guy out of North Carolina who had a lot of promise. I don't know how good a fit that's going to be because they still have Markelle Fultz. Besides that, we'll go to the Nuggets now, man.
I wanted to get to the Nuggets.
So last week for the Nuggets fans was an up and down week. The draft, we absolutely killed it. I am so happy with what we did. We filled the need what we needed right away. We knew we were going to lose Plumlee or lose Millsap or lose Jeremy Grant, so we went out and got a big. Zeke Naji. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, Zeke Naji is going to be that type of player that was like Kenneth Faried in the early 2010s. That guy that's going to come off the bench, high energy, get you rebounds, play defense, and that's exactly what you need because you don't need another playmaker in the front court. Right. Especially with Jokic there, with MPJ, stuff like that. So he's going to bring that defensive intensity, hopefully, to the bigs. And then trading back in to the first round, pick number 24, and getting the guy that I wanted badly, and that was RJ Hampton. Like we said, RJ Hampton's stock fell because he was in Australia playing in the NBL, and he did not have as good of a year as everyone thought, but the kid has talent. Mm-hmm. There was a reason why he was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school for a reason. Very, very similar to Michael Porter Jr. Now, you can stick RJ Hampton, because apparently he's still growing. He could grow into a 3, so that'd even be better, but he's still growing. The kid's young. Now you have time to develop him, just like we did with MPJ. Yeah. Just like we did with MPJ, because the kid doesn't have to play right away. He can learn under Jamal, learn under Gary Harris, and learn the ways of things, and now you're looking 2-3 years down the road, and there's your starting shooting guard of the future.
I think both these picks probably extended the... It's not going to extend the championship window, but extend the window depending on what you can do with free agency. I think these are good picks for the future. The Nuggets, out of any team in Denver, are the team that I want. Maybe them and the Avs are really close. If you get drafted and you play at Ball So Hard Arena.
It's Ball Arena, but we're gonna call it the Ball So Hard Arena.
At the Ball So Hard Arena, if you're drafted there, you're gonna get coached up and you're gonna be put in a position to be successful, more so than if you were drafted to the Rockies. Well, we should talk about them. Maybe we won't, but because that makes me sick just thinking about it. And the Broncos haven't really developed anybody, so I think that was good. I agree with the Manimal comparison for Najee Harris because I was watching some of his highlight packages. He's always like calling the basketball games up at Western. The teams who communicated, the teams who you could hear even when the crowd was roaring, those guys, they were always the ones that ended up being able to just do whatever they wanted on the floor, and they were never, very rarely out of position. Do you think Najee comes in and he's that vocal right away? But I do think once he develops to that point, whenever he gets to that point, that's going to be his biggest asset.
He won't start because, we'll talk about free agency in a second, but we did bring back Pel Missap. So he'll be our starting power forward still. Zeke Najee, I do believe, is going to be that next big off the bench because since we lost Plumlee and Grant, that next big is going to be either Hartenson, who we just signed as well from Houston, or it's going to be Zeke Najee, or could be Bull if he develops well this offseason, which a lot of reports have said that he's developed pretty well. So that's another possibility.
Got to get a little bit stronger. But
exactly.
So with Zeke Najee, do you think that I guess I'm asking this to you because I don't follow basketball and I don't know like the personalities. How is it going to clash if he tries to come in and be like the loud person right away? Do you think that
I don't think so at all. I think he could be that loud presence on defense.
Because Nuggets don't really have that, right? They don't have like a guy.
Jokic is a little bit verbal every once in a while. He likes jabbing with the refs and likes jabbing with the other team. And Jamal had that a little bit in the bubble. But defensive intensity usually came from Jeremy Grant and Torrey Craig, who we'll talk about in a minute as well. But he can bring that to the second group defensively. I think he has a better outside shot than Plumlee has had as well, so that's going to add another depth to the second group. It's going to be nice. The dude also...
He's not going to step on anybody's toes, though, right? He's not going to be...
He's not going to step on anybody's toes.
Okay, that's because a lot of the times, like, that's another thing. That's why the draft is so interesting, because you got to pick people who are going to mesh with the guys on the floor that you already have, especially in basketball, because there's only... I don't know how many spots are left on the bench.
Usually 12 spots on the bench and then 3 reserves.
So there's a very minimal chance you're going to make a roster anyways. I just don't know how, like, if that, because I think that's beneficial. I think that you're going to need that moving forward. I just don't know how quickly you'll be able to do that.
It's a safe pick because the dude can come in right away and produce off the bench. We're not asking him to jump in the starting lineup. The reason behind drafting him was for that second group to increase that intensity. It's going to be difficult, like seeing how the second group is going to fold, because the big thing ever since losing Jeremy Grant and losing Plumlee, especially losing Torrey Craig, is development. We have to see the next year bounce from MPJ. You have to see the next year improvement from Bull. You have to see the improvements from these younger guys now, because on paper we're not as good of a team as we were last year. That's just facts, because we lose our 2 best wing defenders. Yes, we get Will Barton back, but you're going to have development from the young guys. And if Jamal Murray, like how he did, if he played like he did in the bubble for a full 82 games or 72 game season, sorry, because that's what it is this year. But if they do that for a full 72 game season, then we're in a great spot. But you have to have that consistency now.
Yeah, I mean, I trust Michael Malone. I trust the guys that they have in place right now. Is there any chance that the Nuggets can they kind of salvage their free agency a little bit? Because I know, like, Connolly focused on the draft, and the draft went great, better than expected. Nobody thought that they were going to get 2 first-round picks. Especially one of them being R.J. Hampton, because who knows, somebody could have swiped him before. But like free agency's been a little bit rough. So is there a chance that they can salvage that?
Well, let's talk about free agency real quick, because losing Jeremy Grant was massive, but it just made no sense. First of all, so I don't know if there's something in the works still with a possible sign and trade or whatever it may be, because you lose both Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee to the Pistons, who have basically only centers. Their whole team, they traded for another center. They still have Blake Griffin. They have all these big men, and they only have basically 1 guard now, because they just traded Luke Kennard as well to the Clippers, and that's Derrick Rose. And like they're very, very front court heavy, which made no sense, because Jeremy Grant wanted to be more involved in offense or whatever it may be, but he may not even start in Detroit. He would have been the starting power forward for the Nuggets and been on a Western Conference team that is projected to be top 4 in the West, which is absolutely crazy. But that's besides the point. The one thing that just blew my mind, though, that the Nuggets did was signing this Argentinian named Campazzo.
Mhm.
The dude is 5'11". He incredible passing skills, absolutely incredible passing.
Well, we're going to be setups all day on the Nuggets offense.
Yeah, he's incredible passer, but it just made no sense because you still have Monte Morris, PJ Dozier, players like that, Andrew Drafts, RJ Hampton. It made no sense whatsoever. You lose out on Torrey Craig, who's one of my favorite Nuggets because he's a team first guy. He plays hard defensively. He can knock down shots every once in a while. Doesn't demand the ball. I thought at times he should be starting over Will Barton just because of his defensive ability. Especially 2 years back, he was starting games against Portland. He's a massive loss. I wish TC nothing but the best, especially in Milwaukee. He's now on a contender as well again. We'll talk about that in a minute because that's a whole shit show too over there.
Does TC being there maybe help out them?
I don't know if it helps them out because they lost out on Bogdanovich too, and that's a whole.
There's a lot we can get into.
That's a whole tampering thing, but the Nuggets, yeah, like we said, this is going to be mostly. I think there could be another deal in place. I think the fact we drafted another guard and we picked up a point guard from Argentina that could step in to another role like that means that there might be a trade. Mm-hmm. There might be something in the works where we package either PJ Dozier, Gary Harris, Will Barton, one of those players, and get either another power forward, maybe a Blake Griffin, who knows, I wouldn't mind that, or a Buddy Hield from Sacramento, which I wouldn't mind as well because he's a great shooter, one of the most underrated shooters in the league. Or you could go out and get maybe a Victor Oladipo who isn't very happy in Indiana. So there's options out there. I think there's still moves being made. We may get a Woj as we're sitting here, but who knows? I think there's still be moves to be made, but we're definitely not as good of a team right now. But I trust Mike Malone. I trust Jokic and Jamal Murray. That's sure.
So now thinking about everything that we know so far, like granted, Woj could happen, something else happened. Seeing Spida Mitchell sign huge deal to stay in Utah, and everything else that the top teams in the West kind of have done. Where do you see the Nuggets with what they've done so far in free agency and the draft? Are they still? Is it still? Because last year it was conference final or bust. Is it still conference final or bust? Or
yes, in my opinion, it still is, just because we were there last year.
Nobody else made the moves. That
no, everybody made. Well, let's touch on that for a second. So biggest winners of free agency so far are two teams in my opinion. The Lakers absolutely improved their team 100%. They're a much better team right now than they were last year. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the other winners were the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta Hawks signed Gallo, who was a very, very underrated signing. Il Capo, Danilo Gallinari, going to be a stud down there. Then you draft. I forgot who their big draft pick was. It was, but they drafted a center. They brought in Rondo to mentor Trae Young, which is going to be used. Okongwu, who is the center out of USC, who's going to be a big addition on the second group behind Capella. I think the Hawks are a playoff team. They're going to make a lot of good noise in the East. I don't know if they're Eastern Conference Finals bound, but they're going to make a lot of noise. But let's go back to the Lakers. The Lakers, man, you steal Montrezl Harrell from across the locker room because the Clippers play in the same arena as you, but you steal him from the LA Clippers, which is a massive upgrade. He is better offensively than what Dwight Howard and JaVale was giving you. You add Dennis Schroeder, who's a stud too, who's one of the most underrated point guards in the NBA. He's going to be your starting point guard now because you lost Rondo. And then you add in another key piece in oh my gosh, who was it? Oh, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they added another big piece. Oh my gosh.
I didn't see who the Lakers signed. I only saw that the Celtics re-signed Tatum. That was all I saw today.
Yeah, no, they just made a lot of great moves they re-signed Marcus Morris. There it is. They re-signed Markieff Morris, excuse me, because they're twins. Marcus Morris is in the Clippers. But the Lakers further themselves, and there's two teams right now in the NBA that are title or bust, and both of them had terrible free agencies, and those were the Clippers, who lost Montrezl Harrell, only traded for Luke Kennard. You lose out on getting Rondo as well, so now you're basically running the team back without your sixth man, so that your team's worse right now. Mm-hmm. And if they don't win this year, Kawhi's gone, Paul George is gone. They did bring in Serge Ibaka, but that's not going to be as big as Montrezl Harrell, especially offensively. So that's going to be a huge miss. And then the Bucks as well. If the Bucks don't win this year, Giannis is gone. Yeah. 100% Giannis is gone. They traded for Drew Holiday, but you traded all of your assets. 4 first-round picks basically cut the whole NBA in a hole. Just because Drew Holiday is not worth a fourth round. 4 first-round picks. The reasoning behind the Pelicans being able to do that was because they knew the Bucks were desperate. They knew the Bucks were desperate.
But they did exactly what I want the Bengals to do coming up in the next year's NFL draft. They totally got bamboozled. The New Orleans bamboozled Milwaukee, and I don't even like. It's similar. I can't remember. I was listening to Part of My Take, and they were talking about somebody who did in the NBA who did something similar recently. But when you trade away that many assets to keep a guy around who just wants to win championships and be the best, you end up. It's backwards because then you end up screwing yourself for the future that you want with this guy. Like, even if they do end up re-signing Giannis, which would be dumb, if they don't win this year and then Giannis re-signs with them, that would be the biggest mistake of his career because they don't have anything now to do if they don't win a championship next year, they don't have the pieces in order to make a championship team the following year. So, like, why would Giannis stick around?
Yeah, so
they completely they put themselves back asswards, and now they're probably going to lose them anyways.
You trade all your best assets away. Now, say Giannis does leave, you don't have a first-round pick. The similarity between that is Brooklyn Nets in the early 2010s when they had Darren Williams, who came over from Utah and at the time was the best point guard in the NBA. You traded all your assets away for KG, Paul Pierce, and I believe Gerald Wallace went over to Boston. But in that trade, you gained those 2 players and signed Joe Johnson. And at the time, your team was decent, but they didn't win anything. And Brooklyn was struggling forever because of that, because they traded so many draft picks away. If this Jrue Holiday trade keeps Giannis in Milwaukee, then you did your due diligence. Then it doesn't matter how many of first round picks you gave away, but that's if he stays. If he doesn't stay, then you just wasted your whole team. That's 100%. And then also losing out on Bogdanovich, he's also a great signing by the Hawks. That's going to hurt you even more. You basically might lose a second round pick too to that because of tampering. Because you talked before the technical time when you were supposed to talk.
Yeah,
the Bucks are in shambles.
It doesn't make any sense. It feels like they're panicking, and they did panic. They traded away everything for the opportunity to sign a guy in the future. You should never. That's never smart business. No matter how good the guy that you're talking about is, that should never be. I don't like it. I don't like it. No, sometimes the NBA is a little bit too much in the off season, so maybe that's why the NBA doesn't make as big a deal of all their off season stuff. We were talking about that before we started the podcast. Anybody else kind of bolster themselves in your mind?
The Hawks really made a lot of noise. Obviously, I'll talk about them, but I think the best fit in the draft was Obi Toppin. I want to talk about that for a quick second. Obi Toppin, in my opinion, is one of the most versatile players.
Stephen A. Smith is smiling right now.
Oh, he was pissed actually when he first saw it because he wanted a guard. He wanted R.J. Hampton actually. He wanted a guard because he thinks that the Knicks need a better backcourt, which they do. Dennis Smith is not what he should be.
Aren't the Knicks in kind of like a situation where you could use bolstering everywhere?
Basically, yeah.
There's no bad draft.
They're still in the hunt for possibly getting Russell Westbrook in a trade. So that's a possibility down the road if you trade Kevin Knox and you trade Mitchell Robinson and people like that to Houston. But that's a possibility. But I like Obi Toppin there. I think he's going to thrive down there. Another team that made a lot of good, smart moves was Portland. Portland got better. Portland re-signed Rodney Hood and bring back Enes Kanter, who basically was the Jokic stopper 2 years ago. They made a bunch of fantastic moves. They're going to be much improved. You bring in Robert Covington when you trade Trevor Ariza, who basically you get a younger version of Trevor Ariza and Robert Covington. Mm-hmm. Robert Covington is a 3D player, which is perfect because Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum demand the ball. But that team is going to be very, very much better team than what they were last year. They're going to be a solidified top 6 seed, I'm going to say, in the West. I would not say top 5 or top 4 yet, but they're going to be a top 6 seed easily in the West.
They probably get in there, probably bump Houston and Oklahoma. I think Phoenix and Portland probably bump Houston and OKC next year.
Definitely bump OKC out. Houston is going to be interesting because if they make no moves,
if they make no moves, then they still have Westbrook, right?
Yeah, they still have Westbrook. They still have Harden.
Oh, that's right.
They just brought in Boogie Cousins, which should be very, very interesting. I don't know how that's going to work at all.
That's one of my favorite nicknames of all time. I don't know why, but
he's a locker room cancer though, so I don't know how that's going to work.
I've kind of seen that moving from the places that he's been, but
it could be bad. So I don't know about how all that's going to work out.
He doesn't bode well for KD coming back from that Achilles injury because that's kind of what shut his career down the toilet too. Was Boogie's when he popped his Achilles.
Yeah, so
and then
that's not going to be something easy.
Hopefully KD does well with his, but that's
I mean that's the one team I think is sleeper going to be really good next year. I don't think Brooklyn should trade all their assets for James Harden. They have a great team, and now you add 2 superstars back, and you're going to be even better. So I think you roll with it. If James Harden hasn't been traded and the Nets fall apart this year, then you think about possibly sending Kyrie to Houston and getting James Harden. But besides that, I think the Nets need to run it back and see what Steve Nash can do with this young team.
That would be adding too many volatile cocktails to a mix that you don't even know is going to be good.
There's only one basketball on the court. There's only one basketball.
Like Kyrie's already going to be wanting the ball. I was kind of listening around to everybody, and I know Harlow Sports talked about this. That's also on the Unhinged Network. But KD is good enough that he's going to score no matter what, no matter how much Kyrie has the ball or wants the ball more or anything like that. Adding in James Harden, then you're just going to have those two battle it out the entire time. It's going to be similar to how OKC fell apart anyways. Yeah. Because KD is still going to have the stats, and then Kyrie and James are going to go back and forth in the media of who should have the ball more. It adds too much.
It's going to be a clashing of the heads.
It's like when you're signing Tebow. Yeah, he's a good backup quarterback to have, but when your backup quarterback has to have a press conference every week, it causes too much of a distraction. That would be too much of a distraction.
Yeah, I agree. The NBA season, like you said, there's still going to be moves to be made before December 22nd, but be on the lookout. We know we have our NFL Unhinged shows on Sundays, so we definitely.
You guys have been liking the NFL Unhinged shows too.
It was very entertaining last year, or last week, sorry. So we're going to stick with that, and then also before the NBA season starts, we're going to get as many minds on the show as possible. We'll have an NBA Unhinged show too, as well, to look out for. So that's going to be on the horizon. But now let's get into the NFL stuff. Let's talk about our teams because I'm in a lot better mood than I was last week.
I'm in a pretty.
And Jimmy's in a really, really shitty mood. So I guess let's start with the shitty mood because you touched on it in the center of attention. But let's talk about your Bengals. Very, very tough week. I did really good in my NFL pick'em, except when Joe Burrow went down, that just completely shit the bed for me.
Yeah, it got pretty ugly after that. It was. I was pretty upset with how the game ended. I obviously, if you have listened to the center of attention, I hate Micah Jordan with everything that I have right now because he caused Joe Burrow to get injured. But I also then love Micah Jordan because now Joe Burrow doesn't have to take a beating for the next 6 weeks. So that should help out. But that injury was one of the worst knee injuries that I've seen. It's on par with Willis McGahee. I mean, you see his whole leg in the wrong spot. And then it comes out today that he not only tore his ACL but his MCL and has other structural issues. It's not a career ender by any means, but it could have been not as bad if Michael Jordan didn't decide to drop his fat ass down on the guy who beat his ass and got a sack. But it was just it's probably the worst that I've felt as a Bengals fan since 2015. I texted you I think I texted you that yesterday. Maybe it was somebody else, but that's as bad as I felt since I almost had to take the week off of school when Vontez did that to Antonio Brown and we lost the divisional playoffs.
It's just pain, just pain.
There's no other explanation for it. It's as bad as I felt. That's honestly that's all I can say.
There was a lot of promise. Joe Burrow was the most exciting thing the Bengals have had since Ojo Cinco retired, basically. It's must-watch football when Joe Burrow's on the field. Hopefully he gets back better, but you guys need or offensive line just like I do, basically. Yeah. I need a right tackle.
I'm going to be doing a lot of research for both of us. I'm going to be looking at tackles and interior linemen because to be honest, about both of our teams, this will be our segue into the Bronco game, but both of our teams could use offensive line help at any position. Yeah. Pretty much. But now talking about the Broncos, Philip Lindsay got more carries. Pat Shurmur. It took a week for Pat Shurmur to hear you, but he finally heard you and everybody else in Denver because everybody on the sports talk shows is like, why are you not giving the ball? I can tell you why, but it doesn't make enough sense because you lose when you don't give him the ball, but it's a dead giveaway when he's in the game that you're running. Because he's a liability in pass protection and catching the ball. He needs to get better at those two things and take that disability away from his game because it is kind of a liability. If you have the lead, who cares? You can put him on the field as much as you want. But when you're trying to come back, he can give you that big play, but it's too much. You're not going to throw a deep pass when Philip Lindsay's in the game.
Well, Philip Lindsay hasn't fumbled since college.
That's
This
true.
is his third year in the NFL. He hasn't fumbled a single ball in 3 years.
That's
which
true.
is
And
just absolutely crazy.
Melvin Gordon has the most in the NFL.
And he has I believe 5 fumbles in 10 games, which is or it might be 6.
4. No, him and Zeke are tied at 4 for the most.
Okay, either way, it's just ridiculous. I mean, you're splitting touches. I'm going to give Shermer a little more love because the offensive game plan is exactly what it should have been the last 3 weeks, sorry. And that was spread the love on offense. And that means get the running game going with both Melvin and both Philip Lindsay. Then don't make Drew Lock force too many balls. He had a very tough start, throwing a pick right away, but he came back and played well and made the smart plays. He struggled to start the game, but once the running game got going and once the Dolphins respected the run more than everyone else, it opened things up with Judy and Tim Patrick and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, Drew still didn't show me that he's your quarterback of the future. Honestly, the mistakes that he's been making and the bad has been kind of outweighing the good recently in his game. But they were the last 2 weeks when they were losing, they were asking too much. Like Drew Lock he should have a cap on the amount of passes he can attempt at 35. Because if he attempts over 35, it's an automatic loss anyway. So just throw it. You have 35 pass plays when you start the game. Check them off as they go. Maybe you get an extra 5 if you go into overtime. But he should not be throwing the ball more than 35 times. I wanted to talk a little bit more because you thought I was blasphemous when I said Tua was overhyped last week, and then he came out and laid an egg.
If we're being honest, it wasn't necessarily Tua that laid an egg. It was the whole Dolphins offense. Their O-line was god awful, and it was not good at all.
But it did the worst case scenario if you're the Dolphins where it proved that the move to Tua made no sense.
Well, Tua it's not like he didn't throw a pick. He's only an accurate thrower, but when you give him no time whatsoever, then he's going to struggle. It makes sense why you pulled him because the dude was sacked 4 times.
No, he shouldn't have never been put in. Is my thing. Fitzpatrick should have still started this game. Fitzpatrick never should have been taken away as the starter until there was a reason, because there was no reason when you first put him in, and now you pulled Tua because he doesn't look good. And now you've thrown off the chemistry because guys were getting used to Tua because it was Tua time. And then now you might go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick because Tua is definitely not ready. He doesn't look ready at all. And if that offensive line can't protect him for more than 3 seconds, it's...
I'm going to give credit where credit's due, and that's Vic Fangio's defensive game plan here. The game plan was to get after Tua, and that's exactly what we did. Having a season-high 6 sacks on a quarterback is just ridiculous, in my opinion. He constantly had no time to throw the ball. He matched the pass rush with Lake Reed, Hitachu, and Bradley Chubb. It was incredible up front. And this is a defense, like I said, who's missing a lot of good players. Von Miller's not there. Sherrell Casey isn't there. You're relying on Alexander Johnson and relying on Josie Jewell, who are 2 okay linebackers but aren't the best. And your running game or your run defense has been incredible. This defense is very banged up. We're got to get healthy, but this defense has a lot of promise. And those young guys stepped up big time, and I'm very proud of the way they did, because without them, we would have lost, guaranteed.
I don't want to take anything away because the defense did play really good, and they won the game yesterday, but I'm still saying if the Dolphins started Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't think the game goes the way that it did. I think it doesn't change. What I'm saying is it doesn't change it drastically, which is the only reason why Tua being in the game made any sense. Only reason why it made any sense to put Tua in the situation you were in, because they still were in contention. They're still in contention to win the AFC East. The Bills had a bye last week, but they're only a game behind the Bills in the AFC East. So the defense played great. There's a lot of good things the Broncos can take away from yesterday. I think the biggest is the 30 passes and 33 runs.
Yep.
That's huge. That's a recipe for success for the Broncos, and the defense will be able to keep it close.
I mean, to be completely fair though, Fitzpatrick was only able to get the team down there for a field goal. He wasn't able to get them into the end zone, and and he started the whole 4th quarter. They had opportunities, and Justice Simmons made a fantastic play at the end of the game. But
that was just a good play by Simmons. I still think I think that it's the same situation going down towards the end of the game. That's my only point. I don't know if the Dolphins win. I thought the Dolphins were going to win because I thought the team around. I thought that they were a better overall team than the Broncos, but I don't think that Fitzpatrick makes this a blowout either way. I think that it's the same situation.
Well, this game shows me. I mean, we only had one really bad loss in the season, and this week has shown me that the Broncos are not a terrible team. We're not a terrible team because our losses are against good teams. The Raiders game, we got our asses kicked, yes, but the Raiders are a good team now. They have shown why they're the second best team in the division, but they're no slouch at all.
No,
and the only bad loss I think on our record right now is the Falcons.
Yep.
Because the Falcons have had a very bad, or are not a good team right now. But out of our 6 losses, all of them are basically the playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's promising. Our schedule does not get any easier, that's for sure, because we play Saints this weekend. So that's not going to be easy at all. But I have a lot of promise. I think Drew Lock, I'm still, we're not going to be in a position to draft a quarterback next year. That's just facts. I talked about this a little bit last week. I think what could happen is we see a place where you see the Jets lose out completely and they draft Trevor Lawrence first, where you could bring in a Sam Darnold. You could bring in Sam Darnold and you could have a QB battle between Sam Darnold and Drew Lock and see who wins that and then run for your money. I don't think he drafts quarterback, but Drew Lock, this is Drew Lock's team. I think the best thing for Drew Lock right now is a QB battle. And Rippon really isn't that. I think Sam Darnold could bring that.
Yeah, the Broncos right now, I'm looking at the draft order for next year. If the season ended today, they're at 15. So they're at the position where you might as well keep winning because you're not going to lose enough to make it count. 15 is kind of no man's land anyways in the first round in the NFL. I would say at this point they're definitely going to trade down, but why not just try and win as many games as it would take to get in the position that you want?
Exactly, and right now at 15-2, it does not make a whole lot of sense unless for some wild reason Justin Fields dropped past the top 10, which definitely is not happening.
No, so, I mean the only guy that I could see maybe at 15 is that quarterback from North Dakota State, the guy that they had.
But then you're starting back over to square one. You might as well ride it out with Drew Lock every year then.
I don't think the Broncos are on board to draft a quarterback. I don't think that at all, but I do think that Drew Lock's still in a tryout phase. Drew Lock still has to play well the next few weeks of the season before they're going to commit to him at all. Because he's shown enough to make you really scared. Yeah,
that's why I'm in the spot where you got to get another quarterback that will compete with him instead of drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, he definitely could use that. Maybe Haskins, because I think Haskins is probably going to be available. Option, yeah. He did visit Denver before that draft, so... I mean, who knows if they were really going to draft him? That makes a little bit of sense.
I think it's going to be a QB carry.
Maybe Rosen. I mean, you should bring in Rosen. Come on.
I think
I'll pay you to take Ryan Finley. I'll give you $50 if you can talk the Broncos.
I'd rather not do that, but
taking Ryan Finley, please, just I'll pay you and I'll give you a sandwich too. My mom made you sauce and meatballs. Come on.
I appreciate the sauce and meatballs, but pause on that. But I'm not taking Ryan Finley.
Fine. God, I guess I'll keep him and just cut him next year. But
yeah,
other than that, the NFL. We'll talk more football when we get to the pick'em. I wanted to touch a little bit because there was some wild rumors going around the MLB. We don't cover baseball all that much. I know you. That's kind of like your blind spot. My blind spot's basketball. Your blind spot is baseball.
It's because I just rather not talk about baseball because my team is so ass.
No, that's true, but like, what if because there was rumors flying around the end of last week. B Squared podcast. I know your buddy. You went to school with those guys, and I helped them out a little bit with one of their episodes, editing their audio. But the Dodgers apparently are making some heavy eyes at Nolan Arenado. And that only scares me because Jeff Bridich is fucking dumb enough to take the bait. And that's all they're doing right now is just baiting you and baiting you. If the Rockies traded Nolan Arenado to the Dodgers, are you a Rockies fans?
Jimmy, I was in a fantastic mood this week. You really had to bring the
I need you down to my level. I need you down to my level, please.
You had to bring up the Rockies stuff. Oh my God. I am 100% never... Okay, I'm not going to say I'm never going to go to a Rockies game again because that's just unrealistic.
It's a good venue. You might as well go to the game.
I'll just go to the game and drink my ass off, but I guarantee you I'm going to find a new team. If we trade Arenado to the AL, or as we have a motorcycle drive by, but we drive him to the
That guy's got some power because the door is closed.
Yeah, if you trade him to the other side of the
trade him to the
American League, then it makes more sense. I will be okay, and I will sleep at night knowing maybe we got a good package back, and we're just tanking.
It's like a DJ trade. Since they sent DJ to the AL, it was okay.
Yeah, like I could sleep at night.
Yeah.
But if you trade him in division to the Dodgers, I will never wear a piece of Rockies equipment. I have a Rockies hat and I have an Arenado jersey. Actually, I'll never wear the Arenado jersey again. I will only ever wear my Matt Holliday 2007 World Series jersey just because that's the only good memory I'll ever have from the Rockies.
I wanted a raspberry like that when he slid into home. Yeah, Matt Holliday. Shout out Matt Holliday. That was huge.
If
I was gonna say you should.
Dodgers, it's just. You already lost the city. I'm going to tell you right now. The Rockies are already the I'm going to say right now, 5th team. Because the Rapids are in the playoffs. And that's just known to be fact. So they're the 5th team, best team in the state. Which is just absolutely insane. And if you trade Nolan Arenado in division to the World Series champions, you're losing the whole state. That's just plain facts. You're not going. The only reason why people are going to go to the stadium is to drink beer and get a hot dog. Besides that, no one's going to want to go to games.
It's basically the Cubs' second home stadium at that point. I was gonna be mean and say you can't wear purple anymore if they did that, but you gotta wear purple.
I got my votes.
You gotta wear purple. I'll take the not wearing the Nolan jersey. That's just why did executives not see greatness in players? Because there's so many executives that are so quick to just dismiss possibly one of the greatest players at their position.
He's one of the most talented, especially defensively.
He's the best defensive third baseman I've ever seen. I will say that right now. The best defensive third baseman I've ever seen. And his bat is good enough to put him on the greatest of all time list at third base. Like, I would take him right now in his prime, possibly over a prime Alex Rodriguez.
I don't know about that, but Alex Rodriguez had some PEDs, so that helped him a little bit.
He was also on a better team.
Yeah, that's true. But either way, like, it's just absolutely crazy that there's a rumor about this.
You shouldn't want to get rid of him anyways, let alone to the Dodgers. Let alone to the fucking Dodgers.
British is an absolute idiot. I'm going to keep saying it again. One of our first weeks, we did the show. I said the Rockies were going to win the World Series plus 3,000 because we had one of the best records in baseball through the first 2 weeks.
You know we only won 15 more games after that, right?
And then just everything went downhill. Yeah. That's why I don't talk baseball.
That's
just why. See, at least
there's a fucking reason.
At least you have you don't watch basketball, but the Nuggets are good, so like it helps.
That wasn't the case for a while.
But at least the Nuggets are good enough right now. It's exciting. Yeah. I have no reason to watch baseball.
That's true.
Unless it's a World Series.
That's true. Yeah.
None whatsoever.
I at least have the Yankees that I can fall back on, and they've been fun to watch.
That's true.
But there's your MLB free agency talk. I didn't think that we would have it on this podcast, but we're gonna take.
We'll talk about more if no one gets traded. I guarantee that, but hopefully it doesn't.
We're gonna take a quick break and pause for the YouTube video real quick, and we'll be back with the most dominant team of the week in the NFL.
Due to technical difficulties, and my dumbass doesn't know how to work the camera sometimes, we're going to have a small little ad. Except we don't have an ad. So we're going to plug the NFL Unhinged show on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. to noon. To 12. So it's a 2-hour show. How about that? 2-hour show. I'm going to have to wake my ass up that early at 8 a.m. But be sure to check me, Jimmy out, the J-Dash guys, High-Low Sports as well, man. All of us. Gridiron Gallery, a little bit of everything. Maybe we'll have more guests on. Who knows? Be sure to check us out on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, if you want to see what a budgeted Sam Ponder looks like, you can. Actually, I don't know if we're doing the video, but you'll be able to hear. I'll be moderating, and we got tons of opinions.
You can picture Sam Ponder, but hear Jimmy's voice.
Yeah, that's exactly. Everybody makes. I sound exactly like Sam Ponder, but that's coming up on the Unhinged Network live Sundays from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time.
So without further ado, since we don't have another ad, let's go back to the show.
All right, and we're back. We had to take care of a little bit of business for the Unhinged Sports Network and make sure that the camera was charging. But we're getting into the NFL pick'em. First, we're going to go most dominant team of the week from last week in the NFL. I think you started last week, so I'll go ahead and start this week. Taysom Hill led the New Orleans Saints to being the most dominant team of the last week in the NFL. Started off kind of close. It was going to take him a little bit to get warmed up anyways. And it was the first time, because normally he only gets like 5 plays a game, so it's easy to make those stand out, but now he had to be kind of more consistent. But 24-9 ended with 233 passing yards and another 51 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So I think, Taysom Hill proved that he can play quarterback, and the Saints look pretty good. He
was a great fantasy pickup at tight end, that's for sure.
Tight end?
Yeah. Well, he was a tight end. He was a tight end option in fantasy football because they list him as a QB/tight end. So
how does his points work if he's playing quarterback?
If he has passing yards or whatever, it still counts for him.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. I was unfortunate and I wasn't quick enough to pick him up in any of my fantasy football leagues, but
that is a human
great
glitch.
start.
Wow.
But Since you pissed me off last week with my Raiders' most dominant team of the week, I'm going to go right back at you and pick the Steelers. Because the Steelers absolutely dominated a bad Jags team. And,
I wouldn't say, dominated.
And they're the only undefeated team in the NFL. And Mike Tomlin, the first time the Steelers have ever started 10-0, it's very easy to pick the Steelers. Like I said, we talked about it on the NFL Unhinged show, but apparently ESPN doesn't think Chase Claypool is a top 10 rookie in the NFL, which is absolutely insane to me. But the Steelers are easily my most dominant team of the week.
That's my only thing that I don't disagree with you on, but they're playing Jake Luton in the Jacksonville Jaguars.
They killed him, though. They killed
27-3. They should have scored 50.
They killed him.
They should have scored 50.
They held them to 3 points. That's very hard to do.
The defense is dominant, but the offense looked like shit, and it has looked like shit for the past 3 weeks. It's just they're playing Zach Luton, and I don't even know who anybody.
I think Jake Luton, but
Jake Luton.
I don't even know. I got shit for not knowing his name on the NFL Unhinged show. So.
Yeah, because Jim lives in Jacksonville and decides to follow.
He watches them for some reason.
I don't know. That's a weird choice, but the best person on the Jacksonville defense is Joe Schobert, Cleveland legend. Joe Schobert. So they should have scored more than 27 points. That's why I was thinking, honestly, 10-0, pretty impressive. I think they might finish. They have the possibility to finish 16-0 because there's not too many tough teams left on there.
I think they play the Ravens again.
They played the Ravens this week, and then the Bills. But other than that, those are very winnable games outside.
So you could easily get in the 1 seed. But now let's get into our pick'em. I went on an absolute tear this week, going 10-3. I am now 53-43. I shut everyone up on the NFL Unhinged show. I picked the Cowboys right. I picked what else? I picked the Broncos beating the Dolphins. I had a bunch of upsets. The only ones I missed were the Patriots, the Bengals, and the Packers. Those are the only 3. But besides that, I had a great week. Absolutely fantastic.
You've been on kind of a roll. You're on a heater.
I'm on a roll, man.
You're on a heater, and I fucked around too long. You got on a heater, and now I'm just trying to make up for it.
In poker terms, I'm on a heater, and you're on tilt. That's what we call on tilt.
I should have walked away from the table a while ago. There's a reason they don't put windows in Vegas casinos. No windows, no clocks, so you never know what time of day it is.
But I'm 53-43, and Jimmy's 48-48. So you're 500 at least. You're better than you were last week.
I am 500. I got back to 500. I'm only 5 games back, which can be made up pretty easily.
Pretty easily every week.
Especially because we get on the NFL Unhinged show, there's not as many games to pick this week. True. So nobody can really make up that much ground on you. I don't pick on the NFL Unhinged show. I get to just enjoy everybody else going.
And I get to make everyone else sound stupid, basically.
Well, yeah. So. You started the first time on the show. You got the best of the week so far. It comes down actually to the Monday night game. If the Bucks win, then you and Jim tie for best record.
I had the Rams, and I think Jim had the Bucks. So if the Rams win, then I take the lead.
But if the Bucks win, then you and Jim tie.
Yeah, Jim and tie. So either way, not bad for the first time.
And the Rams are up 17-14 at halftime as we're recording this. So now, without further ado,
let's dive into these Thursday games because it's Thanksgiving week, and the best thing about Thanksgiving every once in a while is the food, you get to eat, and you get to watch football throughout the whole day. 3 games, man. You always get to see the Cowboys, who were my upset last week. Well, let's start with the first game of the week. Houston Texans going into Detroit. Both teams are kind of very interesting teams this week. They both have struggled a lot. Going to be an interesting one. Who do you have for the first Thanksgiving turkey game?
I'm taking the Houston Texans for the same exact reason I took them last week. Deshaun Watson is that guy. Deshaun Watson, if he wasn't in the same quarterback class as Patrick Mahomes, we're talking about him in a very different way, but since he went, I think, 8 picks in front of Mahomes.
Yep.
You always kind of compare the two of them. But Deshaun Watson is that good. Bill O'Brien should probably be banned from NFL operations for at least a year for trading DeAndre Hopkins because now there is actually no weapons for Deshaun Watson to do anything with, but he still got him a win last week, and I still think, Matt Patricia and the Detroit Lions just got shut out by a former XFL star. So, are you really going to pick the Lions after coming off of a 20-0 outing?
There's absolutely no shot to pick the Lions here. I hope Stafford gets himself, like I said last week, hope Matt Stafford gets himself out of Detroit soon.
Get on a different team.
Get yourself a new organization, because the Lions have always been shit, unfortunately, and they always ruin great players. Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, to name a few. But
they're cursed.
So I'm picking the Texans too, because Deshaun Watson is that dude. He's a bad man, but it's an easy one there. Next, let's go. The Washington football team against the Dallas Cowboys. I'll start because I picked the Cowboys last week, and guess what? I'm picking the Cowboys again this week. I feel much more confident this week just because watching Zeke absolutely tear up the Vikings last week was huge, and I think he's going to do that again against a bad Washington football team. Andy Dalton didn't play bad. He did not play bad last week. So
Andy Dalton makes them a totally different team.
So I don't think he's going to be better than Alex Smith, but I trust Zeke more than I do. I don't even know who the running back is because
Washington
Geis is no longer there.
Yeah, it's not Geis.
Yeah, I don't know. I just trust,
Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, I trust Zeke more, and I think Andy Dalton, if he has better weapons. I mean, Terry McLaurin is a stud, but he has more weapons to use, and I believe the Cowboys are going to take that game.
It depends on what kind of revenge game you want to think of this as. Is this an Andy Dalton revenge game on John Bostic for scrambling his eggs for 4 weeks? Or is this a revenge game for how the first Thanksgiving win? The Cowboys ended up winning the country, and now this is the time for Washington to make up for their former namesake and win on Thanksgiving. I'm taking the football team in this one. I think that they are going to sweep. Their defense is good enough that they can win this division, and I think they sweep the Cowboys, even with Andy Dalton being back. Even though they're not going to go up against Danuch the Gooch, I still like Washington football team over the Dallas Cowboys.
That's an interesting one there. So next, finally, the last game on Thanksgiving on Thursday. Two teams that you absolutely hate more than anything.
Yep.
The Baltimore Ravens going into Pittsburgh and playing the undefeated Steelers. I'll let you start because you hate both these teams.
This is why I don't like Thanksgiving, especially the night games. I like watching the Lions and the Cowboys. That's fine. But then all of a sudden somebody decided the Ravens and Steelers get to play every year on Thanksgiving. It's completely ruined the end of my holiday. I go to bed early so I can get up and go shop on Black Friday because why would I ever want to watch these two teams go at it? But I'm obviously going to watch because I can't help myself. I'm a football addict. I'm picking the Steelers in this one. It's at home. This is a game that one of the two games that I think Pittsburgh can lose moving forward, and that would break their perfect season. But the Ravens the last 2 weeks have looked not good. Should have put away the Titans, let the Titans come back and win in overtime. The Harbaughs forgot how to coach football, apparently. Both Jim and John are struggling, and Tomlin is getting hot. That offense is suspect for the Steelers, but their defense is damn good. Their defense, I can't say anything about. Minka Fitzpatrick is a stud. T.J. Watt is the best Watt brother in the NFL. Bud Dupree on the other side, they're just absolutely phenomenal.
No, it's good. I mean, for everyone else that's a football fan, this is a great game because these are two top-level teams.
It's the best rivalry in the NFL, hands down.
But for you absolutely hate it because you hate both these teams. But I'm definitely going to be watching because it's going to be a fantastic game. I'm gonna differ here. I'm going to go with the upset. I don't think the Steelers are going to go undefeated. I think this is the most likely game they lose, just because they had a bit of a dole to start the week against Jacksonville. They had a rough start, but they got their shit together because it's Jacksonville. Jacksonville sucks. But I think Lamar he got Dez Bryant into the mix a little bit more last week. I think you're going to see Dez a lot more this week. I think that could help them offense a little bit more. J.K. Dobbins, who has a corona now, unfortunately, so he may not play.
And Mark Ingram are both on the COVID list right now.
So if they, I don't know the exact timetable for all that, but if they don't play, then I'm going to be an absolute idiot, but I'll take that one as a loss. But I'm still going to take the Ravens just because I think Lamar's might be able to come to play because he played a lot better last week. He just ran into a buzzsaw in Tennessee.
That cockiness, ladies and gentlemen, he has games to spare, he says.
I have games to spare.
And he's going to go with the Ravens. Now, think about this, though. A couple weeks ago, is this that much of an upset for the Ravens to beat the Steelers?
It really isn't.
It's completely turned in the last month because for September, it was the Ravens and the Chiefs fighting for the number one seed in the AFC. Now the Steelers have kind of stolen that away from them. So I like that the Ravens lost that. I don't like that they lost it to the Steelers, though.
That's true.
All right, let's get this. These are the games that count because now we got to have whether I'm rooting for you in our personal pick'em because you're the only representative for our show on the NFL and Hinge show. So I want you to end
smart.
Yes, I want you to take the words of wisdom because you're doing that anyways. You're taking the information I give you and you're making good choices off of it. So let's continue that. I want you to win these because these ones matter.
Okay, then I'll start. It's your team first. The Giants going into Cincinnati and playing Ryan Finley. There's no shot Ryan Finley takes down the Giants. The Giants have played okay. They still have a chance to win the division.
They are
the Broncos
still in contention for the NFC
Beast. The Broncos would be the number one team in that division at 4-6. So whatever, but either way, I'm gonna take the Giants here. I don't believe in Finley. It's not a knock on you. It's just your team doesn't have a talent right now.
Our backup quarterback situation was a shit show the moment that we let Andy Dalton go. I knew that. I don't take any offense to that. The Broncos right now at 4-6 would be looked at in the NFC East as like you could win 4 games.
Exactly.
I didn't realize that was a possibility. I thought you just tied every now and then.
The only reason the Eagles are number 1 in that division is because of the tie against you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 2-7-1 makes it look like we actually. For whatever reason, it just makes it look
a little bit better.
Yeah, you go 0-15 and 1. That 1, you got close. You were
Exactly.
that close. I'm picking the Giants as well because I know you've never watched Ryan Finley play quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. I can tell you it's not as pretty as you're imagining it, which means that it's twice as bad as it is in real life. So. I'm like I said, the Bengals lose out. Hopefully the Jaguars steal a couple games from people. The Bengals get the second pick, and then they sucker Atlanta. I explained it to you, but I didn't get to explain it to the beautiful viewers. The Falcons will trade Alex Mack and Hayden Hurst to the Bengals for the number 2 pick, and they'll swap
Ladies
first
and
rounders.
gentlemen, yes, we live in the Mile High City, but Jimmy's not high right now. Yes, he actually said that.
I was doing a whole thing. I was working this morning. It's Thanksgiving. It's a 3-day work week. Come on. But I was putting together my perfect draft scenario, and I even tweeted it, my letter to Santa. Let Cincinnati lose out, have Jacksonville win 2 more games. I do want the Jets to win a game, just so you gotta wear a Jets jersey.
We're gonna talk about that in a minute, but that's not happening.
All I said, Santa, make the Bengals lose, have Jacksonville win a couple games, and then make sure that Atlanta is Atlanta, and they'll choke the draft away and trade Alex Mack, Hayden Hurst, and the 9th overall pick to the Bengals for the 2nd overall pick.
Keep dreaming.
Draft
Jimmy.
the quarterback of the future. Come on, Atlanta. You know you want it.
Keep dreaming.
Life after Matt Ryan.
Speaking of the Falcons, let's jump right into the Falcons game. They host the Raiders. I'll start here. I hate the Raiders with a burning passion, but I can't deny that they're a good team.
You gotta respect them.
Team. I like Josh Jacobs a lot. I love me a good running game. Him and Al Gingold are holding it down. Derek Carr has played quote unquote Joe Flacco level elite.
There's no reason they shouldn't have won that game last night. Though that's the thing that I keep coming back to. There's no other than the fact that you have Patrick Mahomes on the other sideline. There's no reason that the Raiders should have lost to the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. They did everything right. They scored with, I think, less than a minute or maybe like a minute 10.
56 seconds left.
Like they scored with, they did everything right. And then Patrick Mahomes is just an outlier. He's just an X factor. The guy who didn't cover, you know they were going to throw a bomb. The guy who didn't stay deep is the deepest. You should be cut and not on the NFL squad anymore.
The fact you leave Kelsey wide open at the end.
That too, yeah, that was bad. I mean, I know you got to respect Patrick Mahomes' scrambling ability, but the touchdown at least contest the touchdown a little bit.
I told y'all the Raiders were not sweeping the season series against the Chiefs. I knew it wasn't going to happen.
It was a lot closer than I thought.
Yeah, a lot closer than I thought. I'm picking the Raiders here. The Falcons don't have the firepower. Calvin Ridley's back, and Todd Gurley he's been ice cold recently. He had a great start to the year, but he's ice cold. So I trust in the Raiders a lot more than I do the Falcons right now.
Yeah, I think Josh Jacobs and Devontae Booker are going to run train tracks over the Falcons' defense. They have, for whatever reason, they were able to stop the run against the Broncos. But normally they don't stop the run very well, and their pass defense is historically bad. I think it's between them and we were saying, I think the Ravens are the 2 worst NFL passing defenses since the merger. So I'm picking the Raiders. I think that the Raiders are still going to get into the playoffs, even though they lost last night as a wild card.
Yeah, they can still sneak in.
And I still think that they're going to go on a hell of a run if they make it into the playoffs because they are built for January and February type football. With a tough, really big, physical offensive line, a great running back, and Derek Carr. Derek Carr was damn good last night. Derek Carr deserves some more praise than what he gets. I know you're not going to give it to him because you're a Broncos fan. It's the same way I won't give praise to Roethlisberger, even though he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. But he's on another level.
He's played well, but it's still the Raiders. They're never going to win a championship or never win another Super Bowl, guaranteed. Probably not true, but whatever. I like to say that because I hate them. So next game, let's go. Chargers and Justin Herbert coming off their 2nd or 3rd win of the year. Their second.
It's their 3rd win as a team.
3rd win as a team. Herbert's 2nd win
as a starter.
As a starter, and they go and play the Buffalo Bills. Nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. I'm gonna go first. I'm taking the Bills here because Josh Allen is that dude. They're coming off a bye week. I think he's gonna fresh legs. I believe this team is set to win the division, and I don't think they fall apart against Chargers. Chargers are just not as deep of a team this year.
No, the thing about this game, I think that Justin Herbert is probably a better quarterback than Josh Allen, but Josh Allen has a way easier defense to go against.
I don't know about Justin Herbert being a better quarterback than Josh Allen
It's closer than it was at the beginning of the season, but Justin Herbert is one of the more talented guys that we've seen. Just stats-wise, he can put up numbers and get guys in the end zone. But the Bills' defense is something that he hasn't really faced yet this season. Justin Herbert has played. I know he played Tampa. That's a decent defense. The Saints are pretty good defense, but other than that, he's not playing great squads. This is one of the tougher defenses that he's played. So there's two dynamic young quarterbacks. Probably going to be a lot of points scored. The over/under is 54. I'd probably take the over.
Bang the over on that.
I'm taking the Bills as well because it's at home. And the Chargers know how to lose games. They just got lucky and got the Jets on their schedule. It's
true, no kidding. But I don't think Justin Herbert. He's very talented, but he's not Josh Allen level yet.
He's at Josh Allen's level now. Like he's ahead of Josh. He's going to get to Josh Allen's level sooner than Josh Allen got to it.
Okay, that's fair, but I don't think he's been a quarterback right now. Josh Allen has been putting up unreal numbers. Next game we have a great divisional matchup. We have the Tennessee Titans going in and playing the Indianapolis Colts. I'll let you start this one.
I think this is one where we're going to differ. I'm picking the Colts because I do think that the Colts are going to win that division. I was the one who brought it up 2 weeks ago on the NFL Unhinged show. That was my question that I had and posted to the group, and everybody... you didn't quite agree with everything that was said, but I do think that there's a good argument to be made that the Titans are a little bit fraudulent, and the Colts defense makes them kind of consistent as a contender. So I think that the Colts win this game, and I think that they go on to win the AFC South.
I just don't trust Philip Rivers. I love the Colts defense. I think there's a bunch of studs over there.
Apparently, you can't trust their offensive line either.
You can't trust their offensive line.
Five holding calls in one drive.
Unless your name's Quentin Nelson.
He got one, so you can't even say that.
Yeah, that's fair. But either way, I'm taking the Titans here easily. Derrick Henry is that dude. Like we saw last week against the Ravens. If you can't stop Derrick Henry, you're not going to be able to beat the Titans. That's just a plain fact.
It's Tractor Cito season.
Derrick Henry is an absolute stud. I'm taking the Titans here because I still think they win this division. You don't have to rely on Tannehill like the Colts have to rely on Rivers so much because Derrick Henry is an absolute workhorse. So
Derrick Henry showed up at the end of last game yesterday and in overtime. I mean, called game. Decided I'm ready to go home now.
Yeah,
I'd like to go home.
Yeah, I'm done now. And then they had the little beef on the sideline with Vrabel and Jim Harbaugh,
that was something that started at the beginning of the game because some of the Titans players were on the logo and Harbaugh got all bent out of shape, wanted to fight AJ Brown. It was Malcolm Butler. Wanted to fight Malcolm Butler. A.J. Brown got in the middle of them. Talk about A.J. Brown, by the way. One of the top young receivers in the league.
He's been very, very underrated.
I think he broke 5 tackles on a touchdown pass yesterday.
Yeah, that was crazy to tie it up toward the end of the game. That was a crazy play, but Titans have a lot of great weapons.
Everybody forgets about him. He's the other guy. That DK Metcalf picture that circles around where he has the 24 different sets of abs and everything like that. A.J. Brown's the other guy.
Yeah.
The other guy that looks like he's cut out of a comic book. But
yeah, both Ole Miss studs, that's for sure. Next game we have a good friend of the people on the Unhinged Network, PJ Walker, and the Panthers-led team. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is back this week, but I think it might be PJ Walker again this week. So, and they go in and play the Vikings, who just lost to the Cowboys. I'll let you start here because I think this is going to be an interesting take for me that everyone's going to think is stupid. But go ahead.
I'm kind of second guessing myself a little bit. I'll stick with what I had written down, and I'll let you go on whatever you're going to go on. I'm going to pick the Panthers. PJ Walker, he surprised me in the XFL. He had been in the NFL before, so I thought he would be successful in the XFL. Ended up throwing 15 touchdowns in 5 games. Incredible. Was going to be the MVP if the XFL was able to finish. And he put up 20 points in the NFL the other day, and his defense was able to hold another NFL offense out of the end zone. So they surprised me. Matt Rule's a great coach.
He is a great coach.
He's an absolutely great coach because they did it without Christian McCaffrey. So possibly get Christian McCaffrey back with PJ Walker. I like that. Possibly have Christian McCaffrey and Teddy Bridgewater. I really like that against the Vikings, so I'm picking the Panthers.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me to pick. I think this is going to be a very, very toss-up game. I think the odds on this are pretty even as well. I think the Panthers may have a slight edge just because the Vikings lost last week to the Cowboys, but I think the Vikings pick it back up. We're going to go. I know I picked.
It's Minnesota minus 4.5.
Oh, it is okay. The Vikings are favored. Never mind then. But that's probably just because they're home. But Dalvin Cook, I think he is one of the best running backs in the NFL, but he's not Ezekiel Elliott's level. That's why I picked the Cowboys last week. But I'm going to go the Vikings. I don't trust PJ Walker right now. Yeah, he had a good game, but I don't. If he does it back-to-back weeks, then I'll trust more in him. But you got to do it for back-to-back weeks. In the NFL, you got to sustain more than one game of a success.
That is one of the more difficult things to do, because in the NFL, once they get film on you, it's over.
Exactly.
And now that they have film on PJ Walker, who knows? That's why I'm kind of second guessing myself. This is one where I'm not too solid in my pick. It really depends on what happens outside with the injuries.
It's a very toss-up game, that's for sure.
I think it's way closer than 4.5 points. I think that's ridiculous.
I agree. Next game we have my pick to go 0-16, and yes, I'm still picking them to lose. Dolphins going in and playing the Jets. I don't care who's at quarterback. If it's Tua, if it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, it don't matter. Dolphins are winning this game. The Jets are going to keep losing. That's just facts.
He said that because in my outline that I send to Niko when we record, if Tua plays, then I pick the Jets. But I'm picking the Dolphins right now because I think they're going to realize how fucking stupid it was to take Fitzpatrick out when he was right in the middle of Fitzmagic and put in Tua. So if Tua is playing, I like the Jets. If Fitzpatrick starts, I like the Dolphins.
I trust Tua to even dot up the Jets because that's how bad the Jets are. That's how bad the Jets are. It doesn't matter. Ryan Fitzpatrick, you can throw Gesicki or whatever in at quarterback, they're running back in at quarterback, and they'll still win this game. The Jets are the worst team in the NFL.
I want to see you in a Jets jersey so badly.
They have, let's see, what is this, week 12?
Yes.
So they have 5 more weeks until they can count down until they get Trevor Lawrence.
Quinnen Williams is going to introduce himself to they were teammates in college, but he's going to love up on his teammate a little bit. And when I say love up, I mean sack him 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, no, it's still Dolphins. Jets still suck.
Tom, I'm hoping that I'm going to send you a picture before we even post the podcast if we get him in a Jets jersey. I'm going to love that.
No shot. Next game we have the Browns going into Jacksonville and playing Jake Luton, right? Jake Luton, or is it Zach Luton? Jake Luton and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
This is a Jim. Everybody knows that the Jaguars suck. I don't know what they're feeding you down in Jacksonville, but I heard that you had some problems with people not picking the Jaguars on Sunday, and I don't understand why you had any problems with that because the Jaguars are bad. I mean, they almost got lucky a couple weeks ago. They almost pulled it off a little bit, but Browns are going to win this game. Hopefully, it rains in Jacksonville.
It'll make life easier. If it rains, they do have a better chance of winning.
That's how they've been so dominant. They play in bad weather games where they can't throw the ball anyways, so they just turn around and hand it off to Kareem Hunt, who's been kicking down doors all throughout the season.
And Nick Chubb, too.
Nick Chubb was hurt for a little bit. But I am going to give love to Nick Chubb a little bit later on in the show, too. But I think the Browns dominate that game because it's another bad team the Browns can dominate.
Yeah, for some reason, Jim and Kelsey both thought it'd be smart to pick the Jaguars last week. And then Jim got high on himself and decided to post the score after the first quarter, which was 3-0 for Jacksonville over Pittsburgh, and then Jacksonville didn't score the rest of the game. Didn't even get another field goal. So you jinx yourself, Jim, and it's ridiculous that you think about that, but yeah, no shot. I'm picking the Jags. I'm going the Browns here as well.
Jim and I have a lot in common. We're thinking at this point, me and J-Dash from the J-Dash Morning Show gonna do a baseball podcast, but it's probably just gonna be the two of us saying the same exact thing, just with different teams inserted.
Exactly.
Because I did the same thing with NC State and Miami. I did. The Browns win that one. Easily, not even close.
Let's go to my team now. The Broncos hosting Taysom Hill, I believe, still, because Drew Brees still has those broken ribs.
I think he broke more, honestly, throughout the week that he was injured. I don't know. Every time that it goes back, he punctured a different lung, has kidney failure on one side, 3 more injured ribs. It's bad.
I'm gonna stick with my team. I like picking my team. This is another one that I can afford to lose just because I like my Broncos.
Just throwing away picks?
So I'm just throwing away picks, but I'm picking the Broncos because I saw the game plan Shermer put together, and I trust him that he can do it. And again this week, that's saying a lot. I know it's saying a lot because I have not trusted him a lot at all. So I'm trusting him to put in the same game plan and run the damn ball with Philip Lindsay. Please, make my life easier.
Okay. I'll give you 3 reasons why that's not going to work out. Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, and Quan Alexander.
Cam Jordan, 72 has played better. Right tackle is the right problem. If they go after the right tackle,
Cam Jordan plays against the right tackle.
I thought he was the blind side.
No, he plays against the right tackle. That's when he put Tristan Wirfs in Tom Brady's face on the first play of the game when the Saints dominated the Bucs.
Well, then
Demario Davis and Quan Alexander yesterday were so fast. They were getting to the stretch plays before the running back even knew where to look to see where the defenders were. Their defense was... That's the reason why Taysom Hill was able to start slow and then they still end up dominating. Their defense is absolutely gelled together. And Quan Alexander, the 49ers are going to regret giving him up, especially to a team that already had Demario Davis.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. The only thing why I feel more confident in my pick, though, is just because I think Fangio is going to have a very similar game plan to Tua as he did against Taysom Hill. And that was bring the pressure, force him to stay in the pocket. And if you're able to do that, then I feel like we'll be able to slow down the Saints, though. But then you have to worry about Alvin Kamara, which worries me a little bit more.
And the Saints' offensive line is way better than
the Dolphins, so that's for sure. But I do expect Fangio to bring the pressure, and that's why I have a little more faith this week in the Broncos. But either way, you have to. Drew Lock's going to have to put up points, and that starts with getting the run game going.
This has got to be tough for you because Ramczyk is a guy that you could have had instead of 72.
72's play better. I'll tell him that. 72 had a terrible beginning of his career, but he's playing better.
But Ramczyk is a 3-time Pro Bowler and I think 2-time All-Pro. At least second-team All-Pro.
Hey, maybe Bowles is a Pro Bowler this year because he is one of the best left tackles on paper based upon All-Pro stats this year. So maybe... I'll say his name at the end.
But I don't even know if the fan, because normally you got to focus on the fan base to vote for you. I don't know if the Broncos would vote for him as a Pro Bowler just because the heartache.
Our problem is when we have 6 different right tackles starting. We can't. It's a revolving door. Whoever's there. But let's not dwell on that too much because we'll talk about that more on the NFL Unhinged show on Sunday.
Speaking of the 49ers and their dumbass trade of Quan Alexander, they're in the next game.
So next one we have the Rams, who I think they're winning still. I'm not sure.
I'm gonna check.
They're hosting the 49ers. I'll start here. I'm gonna go the Rams. Like I said, I trust Aaron Donald. He's the best player in the NFL for a reason. The Rams are. Jared Goff is getting his stuff together at the right time. This team is gonna be right there in the wild card. So I trust the Rams, so I'm going the Rams here.
17-17, tied up with 9:09 in the third as we're recording this. I'm also going with the Rams because the 49ers are just too banged up. And I trust Sean McVay a little bit I trust Sean McVay and Jared Goff more than I trust Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard with Kyle Shanahan. Mm-hmm. That changes if Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle are there. But I don't know if they're going to be back yet. I don't know. So I'm picking the Rams in that one. Especially since it's in Los Angeles, too.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of difference. The 49ers are not the same team they were last year, that's for sure. And that's mostly because of injuries. So hopefully they all get better. The next game, the best quarterback battle we have this weekend, that's for sure. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes going into Tampa.
What about Big Dick Nick and Aaron Rodgers?
We'll get to that in a moment, but... and playing Tampa Bay and playing Tom Brady, this is going to be a very good game. I think it could be game of the week, that's for sure. I think Tampa Bay is going to be very game. They were very game today as we're recording this. So I think they're going to fall apart though. They're all juiced up for this game because it's a divisional game, or not divisional game, but against a team that they have a little bit of history against. So I'm picking the Chiefs here because Patrick Mahomes can win games no matter what happens.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs. I'm picking the Chiefs only because the Buccaneers defense, a couple weeks ago I thought that they were the most put together defense and the best defense in the league. They've shown me where their weaknesses are, and it's kind of in the secondary. They don't always communicate as well as they need to. And against Patrick Mahomes, it's just not going to fly. Mm-hmm. Travis Kelce's come on really strong the last few weeks, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. That's the problem when you're trying to find teams that can compete with the Chiefs is you can go, okay, well, I'm going to shut down Tyreek Hill. Well, what about McCole Hartman? Okay, I'll shut down Tyreek Hill, McCole Hartman. Well, then Travis Kelce's open in the middle of the field. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield. He's also open. And then Le'Veon Bell's out in the slot, too. So you're just running out of... You don't have enough... it's like trying to stop a hole in the Titanic with a piece of gum.
Yeah, there's so many great weapons for that team there. There's no... I'm not going to say no shot because I think the Buccaneers have more of a chance than the Raiders did, even though that game was close last week. But I think Tom might be up for it, especially being in Tampa Bay. So I expect a close game, but I still think the Chiefs will come out on top. Let's get to the Sunday Night Football game. This is usually a game that happens during Thanksgiving week. It's always usually the Sunday night football game too. The Bears going into Green Bay and playing that bad man up there in Wisconsin and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that bad man's got to be pissed off because
his team sucks.
His team, like we said last week,
his team sucks. He doesn't suck.
He hasn't sucked. He didn't suck. He's not the reason. I'll give him some credit because he's definitely not the reason that they ended up losing that game to the Colts. But I'm standing behind the fact that the Packers are the mentally weakest team in the NFL, and that is, that was one of the worst things. Good thing they're playing the Bears, and because Foles was hurt the last time that I watched Chicago, if he's still hurt, that even helps him out a little bit more.
Big Dick Mitch back.
No, Mitch was hurt too. That was like Brandon Bay or something that. No. I got home from the podcast last week because they were the Monday Night Football game, and Foles was hurt, and I go, I don't even know. Like, he wasn't an AAF quarterback or an XFL quarterback.
Just came from nowhere.
Yeah, they pulled him off the street in the tryout. Mark Wahlberg, come here, let's go.
Yeah,
and it was bad, but
I'll cut you off. I'm picking the Packers very easily. Like I said, the Bears are not going to be able to match points, even if the Packers defense sucks like it does. The Bears won't be able to put up points like Aaron Rodgers will be able to.
Yeah.
The Bears defense is good. I'll give them credit, but they can't put up points.
Their secondary's been kind of iffy lately, and then their run defense. That's the strange thing. Their run defense, the Bears have been bad all season. Mm-hmm. Aaron Jones is finally back for Green Bay. He was back over the weekend. And I don't think that they can really shut down Devontae Adams if he's going 83. I can't remember the guy's name, but even though he did, the guy who fumbled,
something.
Yeah, he's got a hyphen in his name, so I couldn't remember. But he looked really good yesterday. Aaron Rodgers and he and Aaron Rodgers are developing a lot of chemistry. I think the Packers win this one pretty easily too, but I'm not picking the Packers anymore in the playoff picture because you got to be mentally tough to win those games. And for what they've shown me throughout the entire season, losing to Minnesota, getting pounded by Tampa Bay after being up by 14, I just don't trust them at all.
Yeah, no, they're going to have to be better, that's for sure. There's only one mentally tough person on the team, and that's number 12. That's just a plain fact. Finally, let's go to the Monday Night Football game. Seahawks coming off a huge win against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, facing the Philadelphia and the first place Eagles.
Hey, this is a rematch of the divisional round of the playoffs. You got to remember that.
It's crazy.
From just last year, this was a playoff matchup. I think one of these teams is still good. They honestly might be a playoff matchup again.
Yeah, that's true.
Depending on if Seattle wins the division.
I think Seattle will probably win the division because they'll have the tiebreaker over. Actually,
they're tied with Arizona. They split
right now, so that's true. I don't know, but I'm going to pick the Seahawks here. The Eagles, like I said, they're not good. I think we're very, very close to seeing Jalen Hurts.
Carson Wentz is bad.
We are very, very close to seeing Jalen Hurts. So that'd be fun to watch, but I'm still picking the Seahawks because Russell Wilson is creating a very good chemistry with DK Metcalf, and their run game is starting to get going with Carson coming back. So I trust the Seahawks here, so I'm going Seahawks.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks are a pretty safe pick this week. And the Eagles just look like shit. Like, the Eagles' performance last week makes me have more hesitancy thinking that they can actually make a run in the playoffs and win the division. I'm taking the Seahawks because Russ kind of bounced back, and the defense, I don't think it's back to where it has been, but now that Jamal Adams is back from an injury for a few weeks, Bobby Wagner's still there, they are getting better. And as much as I fucking can't stand Carlos Dunlap, he's playing his ass off for them, so give him credit where it's due. It wasn't that he was washed up. I just don't appreciate the way that he ended his situation in Cincinnati. I think that could have been handled better, but they are getting better at the right time. So I'm picking the Seahawks as well. All right, now let's get into the segments, the ending segments, because I'm pretty sure people really want to get to this because they want to win some money too.
Jimmy had a terrible pick last week, like he did, but I did have my Indiana cover.
Yeah, Indiana did cover. I was really close. I was like, oh shit. Hopefully Oklahoma State at that point. Oh shit! Hopefully Oklahoma State makes this a good game and makes us smart at some point, but it ended up not happening. So I did miss last week, but I don't miss all that often. And now we got some pretty good ones going into this weekend as well. We were never able to find the odds on the Tyson fight. That's happening Saturday.
That's going to be a big fight. If you guys aren't watching college football on Saturday, but Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. Mike Tyson looks unbelievable.
Mike Tyson's in shape.
He looks unbelievable.
And Roy Jones got knocked clean out of the ring in his last fight. So I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know if they're legal betting on this because it may not be sanctioned, but if there is, I am betting all my money on Mike Tyson because the dude looks unreal.
All right. Now let's get into the real beats of the week. Let's win some people some money. I'll start. I have Seattle to win the NFC, so they represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, plus 490 right now.
Okay.
I've been talking shit about their defense, but like I said, they've kind of woken up a little bit, and now that they have a pass rush, it completely changes the dynamic of their bad pass coverage. So I think that Seattle to win the NFC, plus 490. Those future bets are tough to get, but that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. That was one of my picks before the season started. Before the season started,
Yeah.
I had the Seahawks going to Super Bowl. So I don't hate you on that one at all. Seahawks are a good team, top to bottom. They don't really have a whole ton of holes. A lot of holes, unless it's on the defensive side, which they are getting better at. So I don't hate that one at all. I'll stick with football for my next one. Bears right now are plus 8.5 spread against the Packers. I think that's a very doable one. Like you said, the Packers defense is nothing special.
I think they win by 10 at least.
Yeah, then they would not cover. But
What?
or you talking the Packers win by 10?
Yeah.
So if the Bears, so plus 8.5 spread means the Bears would have to lose by less than 8.5 points.
Oh,
so
no,
I
don't agree with you there.
Yeah, it's minus 115. I think the only reason why I'm behind that because I think Khalil Mack will get to Aaron Rodgers a lot easier because I don't think Bakhtiari is still playing because he's hurt. So I think that could have hurt him a little bit. But either way, I trust the Bears defense to keep it a low scoring game. They're not going to win just because they can't put up points, but I do think they cover.
That was rude of you for bringing up math when you know math is not my best subject.
I
You make
got
me
you.
look stupid in front of the Benchwarmers, and now I actually look stupid in front of the Benchwarmers. But I'll stay. Mine's another football one. It's another future. As Florida to win the SEC right now is plus 230.
Mm-hmm.
It might sound stupid, but you got to look at how Kyle Trask has been playing. I mentioned it early on in this episode, but he's been on another level the past few weeks, and Florida's been scoring a lot of points recently. So Florida win the SEC plus 230. They have the offense to compete with Alabama. They just got to be able to slow down that nuclear powerhouse. And they don't have Waddle anymore. And he was a huge factor in the Florida Alabama game already this season. So I like Florida to win the SEC plus 230.
Yeah, I do like that. I don't know if I trust Florida yet. Maybe a few more weeks and I'll trust them, but Alabama is a very, very good team top to bottom. Shout out Charlie for being a punter over there as well. Bombing kicks and for the brain over there. But since we talked about it a little bit, but not a whole lot, college basketball is back this week. I know I will be watching on Wednesday, probably not Thursday because I watch footballs on Thanksgiving, but Wednesday and Friday I definitely will be watching. There's a lot of great games. The most notable one is Kansas playing Gonzaga. I believe it's a top 10 matchup. Right now, Kansas is a plus 140 against Gonzaga. I don't trust Gonzaga yet, especially against tougher teams like Kansas, the Dukes, the North Carolinas of that nature. Gonzaga usually struggles against. Yes, they run through their conference, but when they play these tougher teams, they usually toss up, especially when it's the first game of the year as well. So I do like Kansas is plus 140. I think this should have been about even odds, about minus 110, minus 115 each. I think that's how most of the weekend is, but either way, I do like Kansas to beat Gonzaga.
It's a pretty weird line for we didn't finish last season and nobody knows what anybody's going to look like this year. Christian, Marissa, Brady, I don't speak for my co-host. I know you guys are big Gonzaga fans.
Hey, I like Adam Morrison. I like Gonzaga.
Go Zags, but
Rock Chalk, Jayhawk.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sticking with college sports for my last one. It's another college football one. North Carolina to beat Notre Dame plus 148. I still think Notre Dame has the liability of slipping up 1 week and losing a game that they shouldn't lose. North Carolina, Sam Howell is good. So plus 148. Try and win yourself some money, and let's get Clemson back in the college football playoff and have them play Miami in the ACC championship. I don't need Notre Dame the first year that they play in the ACC to win the conference.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it'd be better for Clemson to win that division or win the ACC, that's for sure. But that's going to be fantastic. I mean, you picked all three conference winners, right? Is that or
no? That's just North Carolina to upset Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
Plus 148.
Okay, gotcha. So for my last one, I'll stick college basketball. I think this is the best college basketball game of the week. just because both these programs are very, very storied. Well, actually, not one of them is very storied. The other one is still on the rise, but they were good in the early 2000s, and that's Illinois versus Duke. Duke is now returning they're returning some players, but they don't have as good of a recruiting class as they usually do.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Illinois right now, plus 110 to beat them. Illinois is returning a lot of starters. I think this is an upset watch. Duke usually does not have the high talent that they usually have, like the Zions, the R.J. Barretts they've had in years past. And Illinois is returning a lot of starters. Illinois would have had a deep run, in my opinion, in the tournament last year if it did take place. So I'm taking Illinois to beat Duke plus 110. It's a very big upset. It's first game, or I think it's Duke's second game of the year because they are in a tournament playing style. But I'm taking Illinois. Yeah.
I mean, Duke doesn't lose too much in the beginning of the season, especially in the tournaments. But I don't hate that because since Zion left, they haven't been where they were. Mm-hmm. They're not as much of a lock picking them.
Yeah, they're not a lock. Illinois is a very game team, like I said, with a lot of returners. I think it's going to be a very, very good game, and that's what you want out of these first couple games.
All right, that's the beats of the week. Get your money in, try and win some money back for us, and like we say every week, tip your dealer. If you win some money off of one of our beats, throw a slight percentage that our way.
Or definitely go hit the like and subscribe.
Yeah, I mean I would like to get paid attention.
And comment under our post either we lost your money and yell at us, or hype us up for helping you out.
Subscribe, rate, review, and subscribe and ring the notifications and comment on YouTube. There you go. That's your warning. Now
let's get into our beat or our benchwarmer of the week that we started with last week. Very interesting one. I have a funnier one, so I'll let you start because yours is kind of depressing.
Micah Jordan is my benchwarmer of the week. You not only gave up a sack, but you also made the injury on your fucking quarterback worse by rolling into him and you're moving your 320-pound ass all over his leg and then deciding, oh, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Fuck you. Bullshit. You ruined my football season, and I hope you get cut, honestly, because that was as bad a football offensive line play as I've seen for a long time. Yeah, now, let's lighten it up now. Okay, my benchwarmer of the week, absolute straight comedy on draft night. R.J. Hampton, if you're watching, with the 24th pick. The Bucks originally had the pick. They traded to New Orleans in the Drew Holiday deal, which New Orleans then traded to Denver. So basically, I mean, it's weird because the NBA does it how they don't announce the They announced the trade.
They announced the trade, but they still have it on the screen with the original team that had the trade. So originally, R.J. Hampton was given a Bucks hat, and his dad took the hat and threw it against the wall. But wait, it gets better. His uncle was on the ground searching through all the hats and took him about 5 minutes to try to find the Nuggets hat. And
Denver.
Not Denver. Oh, maybe I guess throw the Bucks hat on until we can find the Denver hat. And they had to do that. And that's just straight comedy. I love seeing those little draft moments, especially when it's at home and the guy's own home. But
are the Nuggets in Denver or Utah? Denver.
Get the kid the right hat. Yeah. He's got drip. He had a sick outfit, but get the dude the right hat.
The NBA players always go hard for the draft. I don't fault them for their outfits. All right, player of the week and then play of the week because we got to kind of get on our horse and wrap this thing up.
I'll start player of the week. I know both of our player of the weeks from the same team. Patrick Mahomes, 348 yards and 2 TDs. Dude's an absolute animal. Like you said, he's LeBron of the NFL. You don't know if he's going to win the MVP, but he should win it basically every year.
Yeah, 127 of those 300 yards passing went to my player of the week. Travis Kelce had 8 receptions and the game-winning touchdown. So, you're a basketball guy. He called game there.
He called game. Him and Derrick Henry both called game this weekend.
But he's been having, it's more for the last couple weeks that he's had it. He had it down mid-season, and then after the bye, he's come back and, just kind of balled out of control, and he's going to be a reason why they're in Super Bowl contention again.
Very big.
All right, my play of the week, I'll start off. Nick Chubb, rocking, mainly because he's rocking no sleeves, no gloves, just hand tape in the rain. He also picked up a defensive tackle on one of his runs and threw him. He's a 200-pound running back, picked up a 300-pound defensive tackle, and was like, yeah, nope, you're not tackling me. That's fine.
Yeah, a complete football guy move, not wearing... I mean, for a running back, it makes sense not wearing gloves in the rain or whatever it may be, but complete football guy move.
No sleeves. And the tape fingers, he taped his fingers. I don't know why, but he did.
It is what it is. But my play of the week is very easily, this guy basically saved the whole game for the Denver Broncos, and that's Justin Simmons. He called game 2 technically with a block at the end, like Bam Adebayo did in the bubble, but he intercepted right at the end of the game. Fitzpatrick threw one in the end zone. Probably would have been a touchdown.
Gotta put more mustard on it, man. Gotta put more mustard on that pass.
If Simmons wasn't a ball hawk and wasn't able to get that, the Broncos would have tied the game, or the Dolphins would have tied the game, and the Broncos probably would have lost that, if we're being honest. Because Melvin Gordon is an idiot and fumbles on the 1 yard line, which is absolutely ridiculous. Probably could have sealed the game, but you fumble and you gave the Dolphins another chance. And luckily, Justin Simmons is a great ball hawk defender, and he was able to seal the game for the Broncos.
Justin Simmons, I think, is the best pass coverage safety. The other safeties that get put ahead of him are the more of the hybrid where you can play down in the box. Simmons doesn't really do that. They don't really ask him to, but he is a very good. He's like an Ed Reed type ball hawk. He just doesn't make as many plays up in the box.
He's not Ed Reed's level yet, but he's shown his spurts and he's playing very well. He's the anchor of that Broncos defense right now, especially with Vaughn hurt.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do because they're going to have to pay him at some point coming up. Mm-hmm. But he's also been a great guy in the community, so I have no problem losing this. I think I won Player of the Week last week, so you can have Player of the Week this time because he's a great guy. I like Justin Simmons a lot. Hopefully they get him to stick around because he makes watching Bronco games fun. Mm-hmm. Now that's going to wrap up our segments for the week. We'll go ahead and get all the plugs in here. Be sure to stay tuned for the Duff City podcast. You missed them last week, but I think they will be back this week. Talk about golf after us on the Unhinged Sports Network. Follow us on our social medias at FEOTB Pod. You can find a link tree to everything else that we do. I've been posting it stupidly, putting out our social media handles individually instead of just putting the link. But I'm going to start putting the link tree, so go ahead, follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a like, ring the notification bell, and comment on what you thought we said was stupid. Find our dumbass moment and go ahead and let us know about it on listening platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, subscribe, rate, review. This, like we say it every week, and it gets monotonous, but it does help. It's like one of the main ways that you can help the podcast move forward as we're trying to get this thing going. So be sure to do that. It seems stupid, seems like it doesn't matter, but it does. It matters a lot.
We're growing rapidly, man. Like we said, you can listen to us on basically any platform you want to. If you're more of a YouTube guy, go over there. If you're more of an Apple guy, go there. If you're a Spotify guy, whatever. If you like radio, listen to us, and then listen to the rest of the Unhinged Network. Whatever it may be, there's so many great things. And one more other thing also, Jimmy is on the Air Raid Attack show this week. He's going to be recording tomorrow as we're recording this, so be on the lookout for that. So that's going to be a lot of fun to listen to as well.
Lots of football talk. I'm excited for that one. Friday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain Time.
Be sure to look out NFL Unhinged show as well on Sunday. I'm going to be coming in with some straight firepower because of my beautiful picks this week, so you're going to want to look out for that too. So.
And I'll be back. I'll be hosting it. So your Sam Ponder returns. Niko said he's the better looking one of the two. Let us know that in the comments as well. Who's better looking of the two of us? I don't know. But with that, this has been Far Into the Bench, episode 16. We'll see you next week.
Peace.